Good morning. It is a bit of a dreary one again today. It is Sunday, December 28th, here in Washington, D.C. It's time to check out the new Embassy of Ireland. Uh, so we're going to walk down 16th Street. We're here up at 16th and Massachusetts Avenue. We're going to walk down 16th Street, check out the historic hotels and buildings, and then we'll arrive at the new Embassy of Ireland here in Washington, D.C. Sadly, it was very sad to see the old embassy vacated in a historic mansion, one of those beautiful Gilded age mansions on Massachusetts Avenue in Northwest Washington, D.C. But for some reason, the delegation from Ireland saw fit to remove itself to a very modern office building, sadly. So we'll go check that out. This is Scott Circle here at the intersection of 16th Street and Massachusetts Avenue in Northwest Washington, D.C. And there are quite a few embassies in this immediate area. This is the beautiful Embassy of Australia. You've seen me visit this embassy frequently. And I've also made an edited video about this embassy because I love this embassy. Doesn't look so great on a dreary day, but looks super nice on a beautiful sunny day. And we'll go a little closer because I do think I see Santa surfing on a surfboard being led by 8 flying kangaroos instead of reindeer. So we need to check that out for sure. The Embassy of Ireland is a purpose-built embassy. It's on the site of the former Embassy of Embassy of Australia. Check that. The Embassy of Australia here is a purpose-built embassy on the site of the former Embassy of Australia as well. And you can see the beautiful architecture here. But check out my video on all the detail. But I do want to get a close up here of Santa. And we'll make a short about this. Check for traffic. I love it this time of day. There's not a lot of traffic. Yesterday, the traffic in, of all places, Damascus, Maryland, at this time of day was crazy. But here we are at the Embassy of Australia with Santa on a surfboard being led by 8 flying kangaroo. What a way to celebrate Christmas in Australia, here at the Embassy of Australia in Washington, D.C. That's quite festive. But now let's head down 16th Street toward the White House because we're here to check out the Embassy of Ireland today. Now, if I were to continue down this road, and if you've watched my videos and live streams, you've seen me go down this way many times. This is Massachusetts Avenue, and this is Embassy Row. So from here to DuPont Circle and further down, all the way to Rock Creek and beyond, all the way to Wisconsin Avenue, you'll find countless embassies along the way. It's a great walk. If you do the entire walk, it's a few miles. It's a good workout. It's flat, so it's a really good workout, but you can do it in pieces. You can do it in pieces. And this is Rhode Island Avenue, one of those crisscross streets. So the streets that go east to west are the letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The streets that go north and south are numbers, like 16th Street. And then as they converge on these traffic circles throughout Washington, D.C., The spokes on the hub, the crisscross streets, are named after states. So we have Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maryland, New York, Nebraska, Virginia. I could keep going on and on. I'm going to do a completist list and see if I can find all 50 states in Washington, D.C. Without using a computer, just using my feet. This is 16th Street. And as you know, the address of the White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So as we keep going down this street, we're going to be right at the front door of the White House. But along the way, we have so much to see toward our goal of seeing the new Embassy of Ireland. Hello, Suad from Slovenia. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. We're heading south on 16th Street, and here we'll find some of the most stately townhomes in Washington, D.C., because we're getting close to the White House. So, of course, the more stately buildings, the pride of place is closest to the White House. Good morning, Casey. Great to see you. Hey, Daryl. Good morning. This one is 1222 16th Street. The beautiful front door, the sconces. Very much a French influence here in this architecture. Now those lions in front of the door, they're a new addition. Not sure if I like that. not sure if I like them. I don't think they're original, so don't think they fit. This next one, a recent renovation, as you can tell, with sort of a faux stucco look, but it's not, it's just concrete. But here's one I really do like. The Chinese American Museum here. I do like this building with the beautiful terracotta tile roof. The medallion on the top floor there, the wrought iron work and the railing, the beautiful balcony. This is a treat. I like this one. And right next door, and you can tell, we call these townhomes, not row homes, because they're different. Even though they're attached, they're one right next to each other, they're different. The architectural variety here is quite beautiful. Now this area also includes a number of historic hotels, because again, everyone wanted to be close to the White House. They still do. So we're going to pass by some historic hotels. Some beautiful architecture today. It's cold. It's not freezing. It's about 35. It's about the same as it was yesterday. This is the historic Jefferson Hotel here at the corner of M Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. Daryl, I don't know. The algorithm doesn't like me anymore. Ever since I went to London, it really did change. So I really appreciate whoever's watching and whoever's liking the video. I used to say I make these videos for me, but I'm glad others like to watch and enjoy. Some beautiful decorations here for Christmas. They've got pansies in the window box there. I think it's even too cold for pansies, but they seem to be okay. This is the Jefferson. We'll get another look from a bit of a distance too. Oh, look, construction. There's always construction in Washington, D.C. Now, yesterday when we were in Damascus, we saw out front of that historic funeral home, we saw the ornamental cabbages. They thrive here at this time of year, so it really doesn't matter how cold it gets. But we've got those little, what do you call those, snowdrops there. happening. Roberto, hola, Roberto. Great to see you. Thank you for joining. Yes, and Daryl, there's traffic cones there just for you. Traffic cones. Roberto, it's wonderful to see you. It's quite cold here today. Probably not as cold as where you are in Canada, but it is quite cold here today. This is Emma Street. See if I can do a little peek before having to turn the corner and take a look back at the Jefferson. I am doing quite well, Robert. We're on 16th Street. We want to check out the new Embassy of Ireland here in Washington, D.C. But along the way, we're going to see some historic hotels and homes and some construction, as you can see, on the way to the White House. And here you'll also find headquarters to labor unions, think tanks. Here's the American Chemical Society. All of the organizations that want to have influence, um, to our government officials, want to be close to the White House or to the Capitol. So you find all these societies and organizations here in this area. Alley work ahead. Alley work ahead. Now this one here, oh, there's a historic sign over there. I'm going to have to cross the street. I was trying not to zigzag today, but you know what? I'm going to have to. I like that one. I don't know what that one is. It's not the Regis. Okay. It looks safe. Safe to cross. I can't ignore an historic marker. I do love the gas lamps in front of the door. Let's see what this is. All decorated for Christmas. Good morning, Daphne. Great to see you. Check out this beautifully decorated tree with that amazing gas lamp. That's a great view. This is the University Club. Okay, I need to know more about that. Let's read the sign. The building is on the National Register of Historic Places. Constructed in 1921 as the clubhouse of the Racquet Club of Washington, which merged with the University Club in 1936. This is Classical Revival by architect Jules-Henri de Saubourg for the prominent local developer Henry Wardman. That is so nice. I'm walking backwards very carefully. Well, this is the University Club in Washington, D.C. And here we've got our donkey and elephant and another little historic marker here, the party animals. In 2002, First Lady Laura Bush and the Mayor of D.C., Anthony Williams, launched a D.C. public art exhibition. Yeah, we've seen so many of these animals around Washington, D.C. So the Republicans have historically been represented by the elephant, the strong elephant, and the Democrats by the workhorse donkey. So donkey for Democrats, elephant for Republicans. And you will find these all around Washington, D.C. I think what happens, different cities have different animals. I know in Baltimore we had blue crabs, and they're displayed for a while, and then they get auctioned off sometimes, and people buy them so that they're no longer on public display. So not as many are around as there were in 2002, but there's still a few around. So this is the University Club, built in 1921. What a beautiful building decorated for Christmas here on 16th Street in Washington, D.C. Check it out during the holiday time. I like that. I don't think I noticed that one the last time I was down here. I hope everyone is staying warm today. It's about 30, 35, 36 degrees here on 16th Street, heading south toward the White House. Here's one of those former police or fire call boxes. This one not restored at all. No artwork, not recently painted. Daphne, I hope you're recovering from a very busy Christmas. I'm exhausted. I was not going to come out today, but I don't know when I'll get out next. So I changed my mind and decided. Now, I don't know. This is behind fences. I'm assuming this is a diplomatic. Uh, I think that's the flag of Russia. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is a diplomatic consulate. Hi, good morning. Either an embassy. Let me see if I can see the sign. My problem is I don't want people to know that I really can't see. And so if a sign is far away, I'm not even going to try because I'm really straining. Nope, can't read that sign at all. Um, but absolutely beautiful architecture here with that characteristic mansard roof, the railings around the windows, that beautiful French-influenced architecture that really invaded Washington, D.C. in the late 1800s. Thankfully, it did, with a whole variety of other architectural styles. So this beautiful building here on 16th Street, but right next door and part of the same fenced-in area is this small little townhome here that must belong to the property as well, and a very nice Christmas tree for the holidays. I feel like this year red has been more of a theme. Yeah, we've seen multicolor, we've seen white lights, we've seen a lot of red. I like that. Now check this out. Check this really interesting railing here in front of this building at the corner of L and 16th Street. We'll have to see what this is. And across the way, I do know what this flag is. This is the flag of Oman. The bright red and green. And we've been to the ambassador's residence from Oman, the ambassador from Oman, the house up near Kalorama, or in Kalorama. The Embassy of Oman, sadly, we can't get to because it is slightly down into Rock Creek, and the fences really prevent anyone from seeing the building. It's not right on the sidewalk, right on the street. So this is the Oman Cultural Center here at the corner of 16th Street and L Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. Hi, Taylor. Nice to see you. It's been a gingerbread Christmas for you. So I baked some gingerbread cookies, Daphne. I overbaked them. So I'm going to have to do it again. I made them a little too thick. They're good for dunking. They're really good for dunking, but not so good for eating. Now, you might have noticed that on 16th Street, and you can see the sign there for L Street, in this area of Washington, D.C., you get these big flags telling you what street you're on. I kind of think that's kind of cool. We're going to take a slight detour just for a minute before we get to the White House to check out this building on the corner that I keep meaning to look at and I haven't. So because we're here, we're going to check it out. Merry Christmas to you, Taylor, and to your family. I hope you've had a wonderful holiday. So we're going to head to that beautiful cream and navy colored building on the corner there. I think that color scheme is just fabulous. Along the way, yep, another office of the foreign delegation, the foreign mission from Brazil. This is the Consulate General of Brazil. Now, I haven't counted, but Brazil honestly must have the most buildings, for foreign missions here in Washington, D.C. We've been to the Embassy of Brazil. We've been to the Ambassador's Residence. We've been to the Ministry of Defense. We've been to the Aeronautic Commission. And this is the Consulate General. Brazil is everywhere here in Washington, D.C. And that's a good thing. This is the building I want to take a really good look at. So we're just taking a little detour, walking east from 16th Street over to 15th Street to this beautiful hotel. Don't know which hotel it is. We'll cross over in a minute. But I just love this color scheme. So the facade of the building is a cream color with gold accents around the windows. The window frames are a navy blue. And then you also see the navy blue at the top near the roof line. I don't know if it's showing up as well on camera, but this is just dazzling. I'm checking for traffic. And we find it in the midst of all of these newer buildings. So it certainly stands out. This beautiful building is located at the corner of L and 15th Streets in Northwest Washington, D.C. It's located just steps from the White House. And it is beautiful. Let's check it out a little closer. Let's find out the name of the hotel. And we're going to see another one of those restored call boxes. Now, this is probably the first one I've seen painted white. So it says Washington Prize, Philanthropist, Pulitzer Prize, Watergate, Publisher, Katharine Graham. Okay, it had to be Katharine Graham. An absolute Washington icon. I've been meaning to read her biography, and it was actually by reading the biography of Warren Buffett called Snowball that I learned a lot about Katharine Graham. I always heard of her, working in Washington, D.C., but truly an amazing woman, businesswoman, as it says, philanthropist here. So I do want to read her biography, but here is the restored call box honoring her. And we have a woman working a printing press up there on the top. That is unique. That's fantastic. So here at the corner, let me try again. Here at the corner of 15th Street and L Street, let's try that one more time. I'm going to make a short here. Here at the corner of 15th Street and L Street in Northwest Washington, D.C., just a few steps from the White House, is a beautiful restored fire call box honoring Katharine Graham, the legendary editor of the Washington Post, philanthropist, exceptional businesswoman, an absolute icon here in Washington, D.C. Now, before we get wrapped up in other architecture, we came across the street to find out what this hotel is. This hotel is the Architect. Oh, how appropriate. The name of this hotel is The Architect. Wow. Love it. All right, we'll go back across the way. And first, we'll take a really good look at this newer construction, as you can tell. Really well done. Look how the windows are angled to create that diagonal design. Have I been to Chicago? Yes, I have been to Chicago, and I haven't been there recently. It is architect heaven in Chicago for sure. Absolutely love it. This is really nice. This beautiful building is located at the corner of 15th and L Street here in Northwest Washington, D.C. You can see the way the windows are angled to create this diagonal design on both the east side of the building and the south facing side of the building. Quite beautiful. This building's just a few steps from the White House. Check it out in Washington, D.C. All right, that's enough shorts making. Let's get back on track. But there's so much to see. That's the problem. Actually, it's a blessing and a curse, right? When you have a plan and you get diverted for good reason. I always say it, I've lived and worked here my entire life, but every day I find something new here. And sometimes it's things I've seen every day. Like I'm sure I've seen this building a million times. But when you see it walking versus driving, when you look at architecture from different angles, there's a lot more to appreciate. Katharine Graham and Warren Buffett. So as Warren Buffett, don't know if he was investing in the Washington Post. I'll have to remember if they had a business relationship or just because they were highly successful business people. I tend to think he was investing. I tend to think he might have been investing in the Washington Post at that time. But I highly recommend his book, Snowball. He really built himself from pennies. And he was talking about how he made, he started making nickels delivering newspapers. And as a kid, he delivered, I think, the Washington Post. And made his nickels turn into dimes to quarters, the snowball effect of investing. Now, wow. Look at those walkways between the two, I was going to say piers of this building, the two parts of this building. Look at that. And again, I think I've driven past this building and I've probably admired it. But certainly there's much more to see and admire when you're walking slowly around something as dramatic as this. Wow. I'm amazed in this beautiful little courtyard here. Check out those walkways. And a close-up look at the Consulate General Office of Brazil. I'm telling you, Brazil has more foreign mission space in Washington, D.C. than any other country, honest to goodness, or at least individual buildings wise. Now, the complex of the embassies of the United Kingdom, Germany, France, those are pretty huge. Japan, they're really a lot of space. But in terms of individual buildings, I know I've seen 6 or 7 buildings associated with Brazil. One more look back at that beautiful building. Wow. Vamos, Brazil. All right, let's head. Our goal today is the new Embassy of Ireland. It was a few weeks ago. We were on Sheridan Circle on Massachusetts Avenue. And I noticed for the first time that the former Embassy of Ireland was vacated and no longer the Embassy of Ireland, sadly. They have left that historic mansion to occupy what's called the Mills Building here on 17th Street, so just down one. Now here we have another beautiful late 1800s building here, 1026 Pennsylvania Avenue. A very grand, probably purpose-built as apartment buildings back in the day. But now we're going to get into the hotel zone here. Now, not an historic hotel, the Capitol Hilton here. And we're getting our first peek at the White House. Straight there, the address of the White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, so it is right at the terminus of 16th Street. That's quite beautiful. The dried fruits in the wreath there above the archway and that small wreath on the door, really elegant. Lots of red ribbons around for Christmas this year. Your dad worked there many years ago as a cook. Did you tell me that before, Taylor? I tend to think someone told me that. This one looks vacated, or at least not kept up. There's no lamps on the lamp posts. Looking a little sad there. And this one is a multi-occupant building here, housing several businesses. My mouth is starting to freeze. It's a bit breezy today. Is the president home? Do I know? I don't know. I don't know where he is for Christmas. And it's not like the King of England or the Monarch of England, where if the flag is up, the monarch's in residence. Obviously, at the White House, the flag is always flying. Now, this one here on the corner, this is the St. Regis Hotel. A beautiful, elegant hotel here on the corner of K Street and 16th Street. Now, K Street is Lawyers Row in Washington, D.C., where historically, and still today, lots of the law offices are located. This is the corner of 16th Street and K Street in Northwest Washington, D.C., and this is the historic St. Regis Hotel, just steps from the White House. And down here, if you continue down K Street, you'll be in Georgetown. And you can see that flag, that banner, K Street. This whole area, the streets are designated with these banners. I think they're kind of cool. I did just want to take a minute and look at this building. This is the headquarters of the American Legion. And that beautiful sculpture of a soldier there on the facade of the building. All right, I think nope, we're not going to cross yet. We'll get a much closer view of the St. Regis as soon as it's safe to cross. Looked like Albania or Morocco from afar. Oh, the red flag, yeah. The slate gray, the very dark, not quite black, slate gray and red, that blood red. Yep, it does. K Street is also strange if you're in Washington, D.C. So K Street is such a wide street that it has these turning lanes built into the street. It's really confusing for those who are not used to it. Once you're in this lane, you can't turn at the signal. You have to turn in the middle of the block, as it were. So yeah, it's confusing. I think it's only on K Street though. So just avoid K Street. Now this is a really good view here of the beautiful St. Regis Hotel. And we'll cross over to zoom in when it is safe so to do. Nice. Elegantly decorated for the holidays. Beautiful historic building. Again, just steps from the White House. And when I say steps, there's the White House right there. Now this is great. This is a place where we can walk down the middle of 16th Street. This is the former location of the Black Lives Matter painting in the street. That now the street has been restored. Christian Science Reading Room with a very interesting sculptural window front facade. Sculptural window facade, we'll call that. Lends interest. Certainly adds to the variety of architecture in this area. Hey Taylor, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead of you. And Happy New Year if I don't see you on another stream. Now this is another headquarters of a labor union, the Laborers International Union of North America, which includes the United States and Canada. I don't know. I don't know if Mexico is part of it. There's no Mexican flag here. But beautiful brass work around the entranceway. Check that out. Trees decorated for the holidays. We've got a nice breeze. This is called the Moresky Building. Quite beautiful here at the corner of I and 16th Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. Next, the headquarters of the AFL-CIO. See, as we're getting closer to the White House, the real estate gets more expensive. The larger labor unions and organizations have taken up their space. The ones with the purse, and the AFL-CIO is one of the biggest. It's so quiet here. It's a cold, quiet morning here. Now, this one you may have heard of, the Hay Adams Hotel. This one is, I think, the closest one to the White House. Also decked out for the holiday. Another historic hotel going back over 100 years. Hello, Myrna. Nice to see you, Myrna. Or Myrna? Myrna? Very nice to see you. And this is historic St. John's Church. So I'm going to go back out into the street here for a second. It's Sunday, so I'm going to be quiet. Historic St. John's Church. I'm not going to walk up to the marker because folks are going in for services. I'll walk around this way. Sign says this church was completed in 1816. Protestant Episcopal Church. Just steps from the White House. But folks are going in for services now, so I'm going to be super quiet and move away with my camera. We'll get another look back here at the Hay Adams. And we'll walk across to check out the White House. Now, last week we were on the other side of the White House. We were on the south side of the White House. We were checking out the National Christmas Tree. This is the north side of the White House, or the front door of the White House. And folks always, I love commenters in my video. I love all the commenters in my videos who tell me, you can't get close to the White House. Yes, I can. Yes, I very well can. And we're going to do it with all these other people who are going to get really close to the White House. How far is it from Baltimore to Washington? On a good day, if you're not in work-related traffic, 50 minutes. I live a little bit south of Baltimore, so it's about 35 minutes for me. This is Marquis de Lafayette. This is Lafayette Square. And that is the White House. Oh my God. Hey, Wade! Wade, it's so nice to see you. I know. There's a lot of squirrels here. Yeah, I get people saying, well, you really can't get close to the White House, and Trump knocked down the White House. No, he didn't. There it is. And the East Wing is okay. He did some renovations. This is not a political channel. This is just a factual channel. But I'm here to report the White House is still here, as is the East Wing and the West Wing. The East Wing is being renovated substantially because it needed to be. Because it needed to be. So here I am at the White House with all these other people at the White House. And you can see the Washington Monument peeking out over the White House. But I do just want to look back and get the proper photo here, the proper view of the Marquis de Lafayette here at Lafayette Square. It's awfully cold. It is awfully cold. The White House Christmas tree is on the other side of the White House. So we visited that earlier last week, right before Christmas. We visited the White House Christmas tree. That flag looks magnificent. It really does. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate you. You too. Thank you. Oh, it was 82. It is 36 today, but I don't know. It feels a little colder than 36 for sure. But here's your good view. And usually, okay, I would say this looks so much better with a blue sky. Looks so much better when there's a blue sky here and some sun. I still think this building looks magnificent, but blue sky and sunshine make it all the better for sure. Well, the fountain's not frozen. The fountain's not frozen. Not a lot of people out today. It's early. It's cold. We'll get another view over here. That's a beautiful flag. I've even had people say, that's not the real White House. The White House is bigger. It's not. From this view, it looks quite small. When some friends were visiting, Tomby and Tam from Tomby's channel came to Washington, D.C., and I was honored to give them a little tour. And I knew as we turned the corner, I knew what Tomby was going to say. I knew he was going to say, wow, that's a lot smaller than I thought it was. And it is. It is a lot smaller than it looks. Now let's see if we can get out this way. So this street, this is Pennsylvania Avenue. It was closed to vehicular traffic after the Oklahoma City bombing back in 1994, I believe, or 1997. Before after the Oklahoma City bombing, I think it was 94. It was closed to vehicular traffic, but opened up to pedestrians, and it's wonderful. It is so great to have a pedestrian street in Washington, D.C. In cities in Europe, There are many streets that are pedestrianized. And around London, I was just there. It's great to have streets that you can just walk as a pedestrian, but here we don't have that many. And I know it's because of traffic and because you want the traffic to flow. I wish we had more pedestrian streets. I really do. Um, it's so great just to walk down the middle of a street. For me to be able to, you know, to photograph and film buildings, Washington, D.C. has these great wide streets. It's difficult to cross these great wide streets sometimes. Now we're heading to our objective, and I fear we're going to be really, really sad when we see the new location of the Embassy of Ireland, because it's in a big old nondescript modern building. And the Embassy of Ireland previously was in an historic Gilded Age mansion on Embassy Row on Massachusetts Avenue, right at Sheridan Circle. It's beautiful. Not to be. No more. But before we go there, we'll take a quick look on Jackson Place here. These beautiful homes from the early 1800s. Some of the oldest homes in this area of Washington, D.C. And of course, right at the White House. This was prime real estate back in the day and today, of course. And here we have both a police call box and a fire call box that have not been restored. But you know what? Sometimes it's good to look at things the way they were. So here, right across the street from the Here, right across the street from the White House on Jackson Place, just across from Lafayette Square, are both a police call box and a fire call box that have not been restored. So this is the way they looked before any restoration or artwork would be applied to them. Cute. These old homes. I'm sad to see that they're not gas lamps, because they would have been gas lamps at the doorways of these homes. And this is more of that Southern style architecture. You know, in Washington, D.C., you get that kind of transition from Northern architecture to Southern architecture, where the style around the window shutters, the porticos of the doors, sometimes you start to get porches around the homes. You see that transition here. Bay windows, bow windows, those sort of things. In a big variety of different kinds of architecture. And then this one here that looks like a brownstone that you would find in Philadelphia or New York. Yes, the gates are to keep people out because Lafayette Square is where all the protesters go. All the protests, when you hear about there's a protest at the White House, they would be here in Lafayette Square. This is where they're allowed to protest. So yeah, these fences are to keep the protesters away from these beautiful historic construction. And I'm all for protesting. That is part of our democracy. But why do they have to destroy stuff? Like, seriously. Digging up the trees, leaving trash all around. If you're going to protest, please do, but please do so responsibly. And there's the White House Historical Association. I got my White House ornament this year. It's one of my favorite Christmas gifts. Every year I ask for the historic White House ornament from the White House Historical Society. Let's check out this one. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, the Decatur House at Jackson Place, home of the White House Historical. Okay, so this is also the White House Historical Association. Look how beautiful that looks. And the natural gas lamps there. What was my favorite Christmas gift this year? Oh, there were two. The ornament, of course, and my kids got me some new stamps for ink, ink, ink pad and stamps with letters, so I can do lettering in my journal, and that was a really good gift. This is Decatur House at 748 Jackson Place, just steps from the White House. This is the home of the White House Historical Association. And you can see that plaque there honoring First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. The White House belongs to the American people. She did so much to restore and preserve the White House, taking a real interest in historic preservation. Check out this beautiful home on this row of amazing historic homes on Jackson Place. Who was the fourth president? Okay, let's go in order. So George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. So the fourth president was James Madison. And we have visited his home just down the street on Pennsylvania Avenue. Maybe we'll get there today. James Madison was the president when the White House was burned by the British during the War of 1812. And James and Dolly Madison scurried around the White House to grab historic documents and works of art to preserve those. And they took them to a home down the street on Pennsylvania Avenue, which we'll check out. Does the White House have an outdoor Christmas tree? Yes. So check out my video from a few days ago. We viewed the White House Christmas tree and all the 50 plus trees. There's also a tree from every state, plus every U.S. territory, plus some other organizations too. So yeah, I did that entire tour around the south lawn of the White House, the ellipse actually of the White House. And it's beautiful this year. All the lights are white, the ornaments are gold and silver. It's quite beautiful. Yeah, I would like these homes, please. I would have one of these. Yes. I would not mind one of these. Just buy one. Ha! Well, I don't think they ever go up for sale, number one. Number two, you probably, you're so constrained, as important as it is, to preserve history. You're probably really constrained with these houses. You probably basically can't do anything to them. Now, this beautiful building here is the Old Executive Office Building, or the OEOB. This is where the business of the White House gets done, right? The White House is relatively small and largely ceremonial, but the business gets done here in this building. And in a prior video, we had a beautiful sunset, and I was down here on like across 17th Street and got a beautiful view of the OEOB at sunset. We'll get a good view here. very grand building. It's in that Second Empire style, which is really characteristic of Baltimore and Philadelphia architecture. So if you think about the City Hall in Philadelphia, the City Hall in Baltimore, some of the train stations, some of the other grand buildings on East Coast cities, they have parts of this Second Empire style, whether it's the roof, the columns, the neoclassical elements, usually very tall entranceways, big brass doors usually, or wooden doors, elegantly carved. That's all part of that Second Empire style. This is Blair House. This used to be the home of the vice president years ago. It says it was purchased in 1836 by Francis Blair, a friend of Andrew Jackson. But this used to be called the vice president's house. No more. The vice president resides at a home on Observatory Circle at the Naval Observatory up off of Massachusetts Avenue near the Embassy of Great Britain. And we've been there. We've been to that location. And this is Lee House, built in 1858, home of Admiral Samuel Phillips Lee. Another beautiful home. I want to see the gas lamps going. I mean, I'm really happy that, for the ones we're seeing, but we need more gas lamps. Now, this is the Renwick Gallery, part of the Smithsonian Institution. And I do mean to come here for this exhibit. We walked past here months ago when they were putting up these boots, these big Texas boots for all the Texas folks in the chat. But it's an exhibit about state fairs, which is really like an iconic American pastime, is to go to the state fair. What would be the 10 most important offices in this area that run the country and stay more or less the same no matter who is president? Oh, that is such a great question. A lot of, I think, I want to say most, I hope I'm correct, I think most of our good politicians, as few as there are, understand that they're in office for benefit of the people, right? And that they don't own anything. They don't have anything. It doesn't belong to them. And that they don't really have a right to change things. And there's a commission called the National Capital Planning Commission that governs how things are changed, historic buildings in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas. So that being said, I'm sure there are times when, local leaders make changes that aren't necessarily in taste or for benefit of history. But I think it's a good thing that we have organizations like the Capital Planning Commission to take care of it. So here we are at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue. And this is where the Embassy of Ireland is today. It is not in a historic building. This is the Mills building. Very sad. It's very sad when you think about the building that it used to reside in. A beautiful, historic building on Embassy Row. But the Embassy of Ireland is in this building. Now we're gonna walk around the block because maybe on the other side, maybe there is some indication somewhere that there's a flag. But yeah, uh, not a lot for me to say about this. Really not. Let's get closer and see what we can see. The reason, I'm sure there are a multitude of reasons as to why the former residence may not have been suitable any longer. It was one of the buildings that I found was more run down than others, right? But let's get a good view here of the OEOB while we're on this corner. This was that beautiful sunset view I had not too long ago. Definitely different today with this gloomy sky, but still a beautiful building. You can see how massive this building is. This is where all the business of the White House is done. But this building, so all I can see here is, wow, Embassy of Ireland in little tiny letters. We'll go see that. Let's go see that close up. That's all I see. But as I was mentioning, it was in one of the residences that, or one of the buildings that was more run down. I mean, it seemed that they weren't really taking good care, shall we say? Oh, look, and the White House History Shop is in the same building. Although I do like a good bit of White House history. Yeah, there's the ornament from this year, honoring the official White House china, which I'm a big fan of. Yeah, I buy all the Royal Collection china in London. I always get a teacup. I always get a serving plate. So here we are at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue, the new home of the Embassy of Ireland. And it looks like the only indication of that we have is this Embassy of Ireland, along with other businesses in this building. Okay, I may be being too harsh, right? Once we're in the building, it might be wonderful. It's just hard to compare to the building that it was in, which was such an iconic, beautiful building on Sheridan Circle. So I'm probably being too harsh. We'll take another view from across the street. This guy does not care, even though I do have the walking dude. Not as bad as cyclists, though. Across again. That is such a beautiful, huge building. No, you are absolutely correct, Taylor. And that's why I keep saying how much I like variety, right? We wouldn't want them all to look the same. We wouldn't want architecture to stop. I agree 100%. I'm just very partial to Embassy Row. So this is 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue, just steps from the White House. This is called the Mills Building. It was built in 1966, and it is now the home to the Embassy of Ireland to the United States. The Embassy of Ireland moved from its former home on Sheridan Circle on Massachusetts Avenue in September of 2025 and is now here. Yes, Daphne, I can have a favorite. Absolutely, I can have a favorite. Well, since I'm not frozen yet, I'm just going to keep walking. That was our objective for today, was to find the Embassy of Ireland, not even a flag, and to check out um, the historic hotels. We got a peek at the White House. Let's go ahead to the south side and check out that big Christmas tree. So whoever it was who asked me about the Christmas tree, let's go for it. This is probably the picture postcard view. This is the old executive office building next to the White House here in Washington, D.C., also known as the Dwight D. Eisenhower Executive Office Building, built in that beautiful Second Empire style and decorated for Christmas. So who is in here now? People who work for the White House, for the executive office. So like, oops, sorry about that. I had to fix my gloves. Um, like I think the White House communication office is here. I know many years ago when I worked for a federal agency, we had someone who was retiring after working for 60 years. Can you imagine working for the same company or agency? I can't even imagine working for 60 years. But we had a woman who was in her 80s who was finally retiring, and the White House wanted to honor her service. And so I came here. I got to come here to pick up a document signed by the then president to honor her 60 years of federal service. So I think I came up these steps back in the day, and there was a package waiting for me at the desk, and it was the document, the little commemorative certificate signed by the president. This is the Office of the United States Trade Representative. I'm not entirely sure who that is, but this is another building probably built prior to the Civil War here in Washington, D.C. That one does have a stucco facade. Oh, I don't want the Oakley Meta glasses. They would have to be prescription. And my prescription is really complicated. I met up with another streamer when I was in London, who had the glasses, the streaming glasses, whatever they were called. Thank you. We appreciate you. Merry Christmas. This beautiful building here, this is the Corcoran School of Art. Now, this is not Second Empire. I think this is I'm probably going to use the wrong terminology, because this building has a combination of that neoclassical, but tiny hints of like Egyptian motifs on this building. And I'll probably get it all wrong. So I'm not even going to comment on it. It's so complex and so beautiful. And I don't want to get it wrong. So I won't comment. But it is beautiful, and it is the Corcoran. Oh, thank you, Wade. Now I know who Jameson Greer is. Thank you. Now this is, I always have these flashbacks of places where I've tripped. Yeah, I tripped really big on this street down here. Didn't fall. Thought I would. So I'm going to be super careful right now and walk really slowly. But yeah, you can see near the roof line here, you can see the names of artists. You can see Michelangelo, Raphael, Velasquez, Rembrandt, Rubens, Reynolds, Alston. I don't know who Alston is. Don't know who that is. Dedicated to art. It is. But like at the top, you've got these griffins, like on the roof line. There's the nautical themes. You've got the shells. You've got the, not Hydra, the sea serpents. It's really interesting. Very like neoclassical with mythological and Greek and even Egyptian built into that design. Hello, Warthog. Nice to see you. And here, you can probably guess what building this is. This is the headquarters of the American Red Cross here in Washington, D.C. This is 17th Street. We're right on the other side of, we're on the west side of the White House. We're going to go see that big Christmas tree. Now, a few weeks ago, I was at the Capitol and we checked out the state tree. This year it was Nevada, had the state tree. Well, here you'll see the White House Christmas tree and you'll see trees from all 50 states plus territories. Keep losing my glove. Plus territories up here. So we're on the correct. The front of the White House sits on Pennsylvania Avenue looking north. The back door of the White House faces south, in line with the Jefferson Memorial. So if you were to be on the center of the balcony on the back of the White House, you would be looking directly at the Jefferson Memorial. And mouth is freezing again. We will be able to see that from the tree. Now here's the problem with the tree. They're blasting music at the tree. So I am either going to be talking like a maniac over the music, or I'm going to have to go on mute a few times just to save us from copyright trouble. This is the back of the old executive office building. And that monument there is to the 1st Division of the United States Army, World War I, with that beautiful gilded angel carrying the United States flag atop the monument. It's another one that looks awfully nice when it's sunny. Not today. Good morning, Bruce. Hi. Great to see you. It's been quite a walk today. We started on 16th Street. We took a look at the embassy from the Embassy of Australia, where they have a lighting display that has Santa on a surfboard with 8 flying kangaroo instead of reindeer. Pretty cool. We walked down 16th Street, checked out some historic hotels and other historic buildings. We went across the front of the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. We went up Jackson Place to look at some beautiful historic buildings. And then our objective today was to see the new location of the Embassy of Ireland in an office building, a very nondescript office building on at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue. We checked out the front of the White House, and now we're going to check out. It's not turned on. The lights aren't turned on. Well, we're going to see the trees anyway. The lights aren't turned on yet. Well, that's kind of sad. You'll have to see my prior video to check out the lights turned on this beautiful Christmas tree, because it is truly beautiful, but the lights aren't on. I wonder if they turn them on at 10 o'clock. Yikes. But in my prior video, I walked around this tree, and all these little trees were all lit up, each tree representing a different state and decorated by school children from each state and territory. So here's the back of the White House. See the view from the front on Pennsylvania Avenue, you're much closer. Here, the south lawn of the White House is pretty expansive, and so you don't get as close from the back of the White House. And then here's that marker. This is the marker from which all distances, like on your GPS or your maps, all distances to Washington, D.C. are measured from this marker. It's called the 0 milestone, but this is not the center of Washington, D.C. It's not. This was the starting point of the first transcontinental motor convoy over the Lincoln Highway. Okay? And that was on the 7th of July, I'm terrible at this. 1919. Okay. So 7th of July, 1919. Always takes me a minute. Point for the measurement of distances from Washington on highways in the United States. Okay. So that's what it is for. Starting point of the second transcontinental motor convoy over the Bankhead Highway on the 14th of June, 1920. Okay. I know, Wade. Yeah, I'm not hating. Good morning, Chevalier. Good morning. I'm not hating. Okay, so they do have this closed, and the lights are not on yet. It's too early. But it's good that they keep it monitored, because there are ornaments on all these trees decorated by school children from all over the country, and I wonder if, people might try to pick them up. There's a good shot of the Washington Monument and the National Christmas Tree. So if you're here in Washington, D.C., do check it out. And I'll look to see if they have times listed for when the lights actually come on. No, it doesn't say it here. The National Christmas Tree, that's just the history. Okay, it says 1:30 to 9, Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 9, Friday to Sunday. So I think I was here about noon about a week ago, and we got to see it lit up, plus all these trees decorated by school children. And as you walk around, you can see which, I'm going to go this way, you can see which school donated the ornaments or created the ornaments. So there's 1 or 2 schools per state, and they're listed on the sign in front of the tree. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to get a letter from Ireland. And hey, maybe on the inside, maybe it looks fantastic. I'm going to look. The International Club in Washington, D.C. has events at the embassies and even some events at residences of the ambassadors. So I'll have to see if there's an event coming up I would think there would be something on their website since this is a pretty significant change.
Each one's a different story.
Because that embassy, the former Embassy of Ireland, was quite an historic building and a place to be. So we're walking east toward 15th Street. Now you wonder, why didn't I cross 16th Street? I went from 17th to 15th because 16th Street dead ends at the White House because the White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So we have to walk around. And you've seen me on 15th Street many times before. Hope everyone is having a fantastic morning wherever you are. It's wonderful when Christmas is on a Thursday because then you have Friday and Saturday and Sunday to recoup. But now it's Sunday and I'm feeling it. But I had to get out today. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. The former Irish embassy is for sale for $10 million. That actually is a bargain because there are houses that are smaller in that same area that are going for much more than that, 13, 14 million. I have to think, again, just from what I could see from the outside over the last few years, I have to think it's fallen into a bit of disrepair. And that is no slight to the Irish delegation, but the outside always looked like it needed a little something, you know? Just looked like it was maybe not cared for to the extent that it should have been. I'll just leave it there. So maybe it's on sale. maybe it's a discount. Uh-oh. Maybe it's a discount. Now this plaza here is the World War I Memorial, which I'm not going to visit today. I visited on previous videos, and for war memorials, I like to make sure I'm in the right frame of mind. You know, not being silly or fun. So we'll do that on a different walk. But I did promise historic hotels today. So we've seen the St. Regis, the Jefferson, and the Hay Adams. This hotel on the corner to the left, this is the Hotel Washington with those beautiful, I believe, what is painted plaster and concrete motifs around the windows. Again, all those neoclassical images around the windows. I'll stop walking in a minute. I know I'm walking really fast. So that's the Hotel Washington. Hey, Ben, good morning. And the Hotel Washington is right next to the amazing Willard Hotel. Now, I'm going to walk across the street and then I will get up close because I think you have to really take in the grand size of this hotel. You can see atop the Willard Hotel the flags of the great state of Maryland, Washington, D.C., and the United States. The land that we're on today in Washington, D.C., what is left of Washington, D.C., was formerly part of the state of Maryland. There was another part of Washington, D.C. for a brief time, Alexandria, Virginia. But Alexandria, in the late 1840s, decided to retrocede back to Virginia and not be a part of Washington, D.C. anymore. So, oh well, what's left of Washington, D.C. is all formerly the state of Maryland. That includes the city of Georgetown. What a beautiful entranceway and a beautiful tree. We'll cross over in a minute. I just want to get the grand view. The original hotel, the Willard Hotel, was here. It predates the Civil War, but it wasn't this big. The original hotel was this corner part here, and it was, I think, 5 stories. It was shorter than it is today. And the reason we know it existed, there are photographs and sketches of it. But during the Civil War, and part of the research that I'm doing, tracing my ancestors' adventures, on September 6th of 1862, when the Union Army marched from Virginia through Washington, D.C., heading toward Maryland and eventually the Battle of Antietam, they passed by the Willard Hotel. And so we have a sketch from that time of what the Willard Hotel looked like. And it's just this part of the building. It was called Willard's Hotel at that time. And it's just this part of the building. But today, all the rest of this building is part of this absolutely luxurious and grand hotel. And I do have a video, part of a video from inside this hotel. Someday I'll be brave enough to ask if I can video the lobby. The challenge always is, and I agree, some people just don't want to be in videos. And a hotel lobby is definitely full of people. And I respect if they don't want to be in videos. Let's cross over and get a closer look. Oh, and by the way, there's the Capitol. So we are on New York Avenue. This is New York Avenue. That is Pennsylvania Avenue. They converge. You see the post office tower there. The building that sets the height restriction for Washington, D.C. No building can be taller than that post office tower, not the Washington Monument. That's why buildings in Washington, D.C. are relatively short, which contributes to the low noise levels in Washington. Our streets are wide, our buildings are short, and we have lots of green space. And therefore, Washington, D.C. is relatively quiet. It's a beautiful view of the flags. Right here in this corner of the Willard Hotel is the, I think it's called the Robin Bar. I forget what it's called, but it's a round bar. It's a really nice bar. The Battle Hymn of the Republic was written here at the old Willard Hotel in 1861. And this plaque commemorates that. And there are a whole bunch of other plaques commemorating historical things. This is where the term lobbyist comes from. People would hang out in the lobby to meet presidents and important people. This is the lobby they would hang out in. So if you hung out in the lobby of the Willard, you were a lobbyist. You were trying to get the ear of an influential politician. Oh, Wade. Okay, I'll have to do that. Round Robin Bar. Thank you, Bruce. I will have to check that out, Wade, because I don't want to be too critical of the Irish delegation. Beautiful brass revolving door here. How lovely. I don't think, nope, we won't see any today, but here at the Café du Parc, normally there are people outside enjoying breakfast. So here on the 2nd of October in 1922, John J. Pershing met with 140 World War I reserve officers and founded the Reserve Officers Association of the United States. Fantastic. I have an ancestor who met General Pershing and Omar Bradley, which is pretty cool. All kinds of plaques just commemorating historic things that happened at this beautiful historic hotel. Like I said earlier, I feel like red is certainly a theme this Christmas. Like more, I know red is a Christmas color, but more so than usual. Just seeing so many red ribbons everywhere. Just simple ornamentation, just simple decorations. This is the Christmas tree outside of the beautiful and historic Willard Hotel here in Washington, D.C. It's just steps from the White House and right across the street from the World War I Memorial, decorated beautifully for the holidays. Check it out when you're in Washington, D.C. Those are huge ornaments, too. Of course, you need huge ornaments for a huge tree. Check that out. Wow. I like those YouTube videos that just play like, cool holiday jazzy music and just show you photos of trees, ornaments, all kinds of beautiful warm decorations. I bet it does look nice at night. So for Christmas, I gave my husband a bunch of gift certificates to restaurants that he doesn't typically want to go to, but I want to go to. So it's more like a present for me than for him. I should have done one to the Willard. I should have, well, one of those, hey, we got to find a night when they have a really good deal on a room, like a cheap deal on a room rate and just go for a night. I've been to the other one is the Mayflower. I've been to the Mayflower and they had a really good deal. They did. They had a really good deal. And that was great. That was fantastic. So we're back again to the Hotel Washington. But here, I've mentioned this before, on 15th Street, it's called the Extra Mile. This is a 1-mile walk on 15th Street and all around the area, commemorating people who volunteer, called Points of Light. People who've contributed to bettering society. Edgar Helms, founder of Goodwill Industries. These are people that you don't typically think of historically. They generally weren't. Some of them weren't really well known. Now this one obviously well known, Frederick Douglass. But it's another reason when you're in Washington or any historic city to make sure you look up and look down and not just straight ahead, because you might be missing something. Paul Harris, I don't know who he was, founding the Rotary International Clubs, all these service organizations. But it's always a good idea to look up, look down. Don't just look straight ahead. You might miss something. $389. That actually isn't horrible, Wade, for the Willard. $389. That's a deal. Yeah, I think when I went to the Mayflower, it was crazy. It was like $170 for the Mayflower. It was a weeknight, so rates are higher. I'm sorry, it was a weekend. Rates are higher here on weekdays because of people coming to do business here in Washington, D.C., right? Whereas in other cities, the rates are higher on weekends. Now here's one of those beautifully restored police or fire call boxes. This one's located here on F Street and 15th Street, just across from the Hotel Washington. And the artwork in this one commemorates sparing the Rhodes Tavern when the British were burning Washington, D.C. in 1814. And the Rhodes Tavern was spared And it was located here in this building, well, here, where this building is today, until 1984. So the Rhodes Tavern survived the British, but didn't survive local developers who, through a ballot initiative, raised the building in 1984. Check out the site of Rhodes Tavern, where it used to be, here on 15th and F Streets in Washington, D.C. Hello, Roberto. Washington, D.C. We are in Washington, D.C. Here's another view of that beautiful Hotel Washington and the artwork around the windows. Quite unique for this area. Again, right next door to the Willard Hotel. And this is the hotel, the top floor, the View, V-U-E, is the bar and restaurant on the top floor. And from that bar and restaurant, you can get a view of the White House over top of the Treasury building here. It's a fantastic view. It's beautiful. And I've been there. I should do another live stream from there. This is F Street. If we were to continue this way on F Street, we'd run into all the historic department store buildings, Woodward and Lothrop, and a whole host of other beautifully preserved shops. All the way from here, all the way to 7th Street is a fantastic walk. And I've done this walk. It is called the historic F Street Corridor. There's the Sun Building, the Baltimore Sun Building, which is wonderful, the National Press Building. There's a fantastic Art Deco and aluminum facade on what is now District Taco, but it's a beautifully preserved building further down on F Street. This is a great walk. But yeah, ballot initiative to preserve the building approved by Washington citizens, but the building was razed in 1984. Oh well. We're walking north on 15th Street. We're heading back to where we started on 16th Street. And we're going to take a look. This beautiful building. I've done a short on this building called Metropolitan Square. Really beautifully preserved. Love these lamps. I do love these lamps. We need more lamps like this. There's just so much to see. I've lived and worked here my entire life. And every day I see something different. Or maybe I see the same thing but from a different angle. This is the old Ebbett Grill. I prefer the restaurants around the corner. I prefer the Hamilton to the old Ebbett. But this is also a historic restaurant. And I'm loving these huge nutcrackers. So if you're heading from the National Mall and the Smithsonian buildings, you would make a turn here, or you would make a turn from either Independence or Constitution Avenue, and you would head north on 15th Street if you wanted to visit the White House. This would be the best entrance. Again, I prefer the northern, the Pennsylvania Avenue entrance versus the view from the south, because you get closer to the White House. Here's another one of those restored police or fire call boxes. This one's located here on 15th and G Street in Northwest Washington, D.C., right next to the Treasury building. very close to the White House. And this one commemorates inaugural parades from 1805, Thomas Jefferson's inaugural parade, to Ronald Reagan in 1981, with some beautiful photos and artwork commemorating inaugural parades. Throughout Washington, D.C., keep your eyes open for these restored police and fire call boxes. Different colors, different forms of art, and all definitely worth a look. Ben, oh my gosh, you've been a member for a month. That freaks me out, Ben. Time flies. And I want to thank you. You've always been an amazing supporter and my very, very first member. So a huge thank you to you, Ben. You're fantastic. So my members only content, I can't believe I'm saying that, members only content. So I do want to make sure that I have some content that is members only. So all of my completist journeys are going to be members only. So recently I just posted the list of all the Metropolitan line underground stations that I visited in London. I just posted the list, but as I produce the videos with all my completist stuff, including some videos from my desk, and I'm going to attempt a live stream from my desk. I've never done that before. That will all be members only. So Ben, you are super wonderful for supporting my channel. I can't believe I'm monetized. It's crazy. You all are so kind to join me. This one is one of my favorites. This one here on the corner of New York Avenue and 15th Street. You know, we see these buildings with the gold leaf domes on the corners. They're almost always former insurance buildings. And I think it lends back to back in the day, insurance companies were all about fire insurance, right? And so the insurance companies may have either had a bell in those cupolas or they would have had someone fire watching in those cupolas. They're almost always brick buildings and they're beautiful. The clock is, wow, the clock is correct. That's a bonus. Oh my gosh, Wade. Wade, you are way too kind. Wade, thank you so much. That is super kind of you. I appreciate it. And I'm so glad you can join me for all of my adventures. And I really appreciate you participating in chat too. So thank you. This is a good one. If we had a blue sky today, this would be magnificent. But sadly, we don't have a blue sky today. But it's still a beautiful building. It says organized in 1867. So whatever company, Truist is not the historic owner of this building. Truist is a recent bank. So this is not a bank as a bank. This is an insurance company as a bank. But a beautiful building. Hey, we've got another call box. I don't think I've recorded this one yet. So this historic police or fire call box has been restored. It's located here at the corner of 15th Street and New York Avenue in Northwest Washington, D.C., just a few steps from the White House. This one includes artwork depicting downtown Washington in 1801, and we can see how different downtown Washington was in 1801. Check out these beautiful works of art and preservation throughout Washington, D.C. They are so neat. And again, it kind of adds to the whole completionist or completist. Okay, I was a completionist before anyone else started becoming a completionist, but I used to call it completist. So I feel like I'm the original. But these are great things to walk around if you're visiting Washington, D.C. with your family. And obviously, there's just so much to see but you can make little scavenger hunts for your kid. Okay, let's be honest here. It doesn't have to be for kids, for adults. You can make little scavenger hunts and track things down. Now, I wouldn't even dream of being bored in any city, anywhere, ever. But if you've got kids, teenagers, who might be a little bored with the historical stuff, you can make it fun when you're looking for things, thank you for your service. We appreciate it. When you're, looking for items on a checklist or a scavenger hunt list. This is the Folger, Nolan, Fleming, Douglas Incorporated building, members of the New York Stock Exchange, just known as the Folger building. Beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-story building here. Beautiful 10-story building with balconies. Absolutely. In that second Empire style. And then 2 doors down, also the securities building. Look at this. This is neo-Gothic right here. This little narrow. So why are these buildings so narrow? There must be a story to this. And I'm guessing it has to do with ground rent or the cost of land, right? We're close to the White House. So you buy a small plot of land, but you build up. So this is a neo-Gothic, the securities building. Look at those windows. Wow. That's pretty cool. In between, you can see this building was probably quite short. And then this modern structure on top of it. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I think it's quite unified. But here, this is the one. The building says Ned's Club, and I don't know what it is. But check out the mosaic work. Check out this beautiful work around the doors. This iron, stainless steel work. This is quite unique in Washington, D.C. Actually, I think that's painted concrete. I don't think it's mosaic work. It just says this is Ned's Club. We'll have to look this one up. We'll definitely have to look that one up. Now we've got the Woodward building here. This is not the former Woodward and Lothrop department store. That's a few blocks from here. And we visited that one before. Taxes. Yes. Yeah, there was the whole thing, and it's actually quite interesting to see how, over time different builders tried to avoid excessive taxes, but also, wanting to create characteristic architecture. And here we have just a superstar here on this corner of 15th Street and H Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. This is amazing. And I don't know the name of this building. I'll have to do some research on this one. I've seen it a million times. I love it. Okay. Yet another scooter rider that nearly killed me there. These window frames painted in green. Kind of that patina green. The brick is that beige brick. Just magnificent. Had to be the home of some really important business back in the day. Back up a little bit. There is a lot of traffic here. And then we're going to go to one of my favorite buildings on this street. That unfortunately, every time I'm here, it is gloomy. every single time I'm here. The weather is terrible when I try to video this building up here on the next block. Okay, I think I'm good. Yeah, this one is a treat. I do tend to like the different color painted window frames, whether it's black, this is that green patina color, and such ornamentation around all the windows and between each of the floors. Okay, this is called the Southern Building. That's just it. And this is a little hotel here, the Opaline Bar and Restaurant at the Sofitel. Okay, so that's the Hotel Sofitel. So this one is called the Southern Building. And I'm going to do some research on this because this is fantastic. But this is the one I wanted to get a better look at. And I've been here at different times of day, and I still can't quite catch it with the right sunlight or a blue sky. This is the Bowen Building. And while it's quite simple, I like the columns and the archways on the first floor and the work around the windows. This is currently the home of J.P. Morgan Chase here in Washington, D.C. But it is just rather simple. And you might look at these, floors above the first floor and think, oh, that's kind of bland. But when you get closer to the roof line, there's some interesting elements up there. I just like the first floor. I like the sculpture work around the windows. See if I can cross carefully. Quickly. Oh, and there's retail space for rent. Just get a really good look here. The urns, the very neoclassical look here. The beautiful work around the doorways and the windows. This obviously a new entryway. But this work here is quite beautiful. The NIST Museum and Research Building website has an article on the W building. Oh, cool. Hello, Summer. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Everyone, I really appreciate you joining me today. Wow, this was a much longer walk than I expected. We were on a journey today to find the new location of the Embassy of Ireland, and we did. We took a walk around the White House. We looked at some amazing residences and historic properties around the White House. We saw the National Christmas Tree, although it's not lit yet. We also saw some fantastic architecture here on 15th Street. We took a tour around the front of the Willard Hotel, and we're ending here at the Bowen Building on 15th Street. And a huge thank you to Wade for becoming a member today. That is fantastic. Thank you to Ben and Daphne and all of my members. Johnny, who's not here. It's really fantastic to have you. Thank you for your support. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the holiday season and a very happy new year. Take care. Happy birthday, Summer. Happy birthday.